I leaned back in the passenger seat, a soft smile warming my face as the sun peeked through the trees lining the highway. My son, Jeremy, grinned beside me, his hands steady on the wheel, just like mine had been years ago when I used to take him on our summer road trips. Beaches, mountains, lakes. His laughter had once filled the back seat like music. Now, he was returning the favor, or so I thought. He'd told me to pack light, to bring my camera, and to wear that old fishing hat he used to mock, but secretly loved. "Dad," he'd said with a boyish chuckle that reminded me of better days, "you always took me somewhere special. It's my turn now." And I believed him. I wanted to. But as the miles rolled on, something began to shift. His smile faded each time we got closer to our destination. His answers became shorter. The music stopped. Then we turned down a long, quiet road I didn't recognize. That's when the hairs on my arms stood up. My heart slowed, then quickened, as a strange, familiar building appeared in the distance. One I'd driven past many times with pity in my eyes for the old souls who had no one. As we pulled up to the gates, Jeremy finally looked at me, but he couldn't hold my gaze. And that's when I knew. This wasn't a vacation. This was goodbye. Before we continue, thank you so much for your support. Every like, comment, and view means the world to us. We're on a mission to reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and we'd love for you to be part of that journey. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and let's grow together. Now, let's proceed. The morning had started like a dream. Jeremy called me the night before, full of excitement, telling me to get ready for a surprise. He said he'd booked us a trip, just the two of us, like the old days, Dad. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. It had been years since we'd spent time together like that. Since his mother passed, the space between us had widened. I understood. He had his life, his kids, his job. I didn't expect much. But when he showed up at my door holding coffee and a smile, wearing that same baseball cap he wore when he was a teen, it felt like time rewound. I packed light, like he said. My camera, my heart pills, and that ridiculous fishing hat he always teased me about. He even brought snacks, those peanut butter crackers I used to keep in the glove box. It felt like the son I raised was still there, like nothing had changed. The highway opened up before us, smooth and quiet. For a while, we laughed and reminisced. How I got us lost in the mountains one year. How we caught 0 fish after 3 days in a canoe. He told me about his kids, his work, how tired he'd been lately. I listened closely, proud and aching all at once. I'd missed this. But as the drive wore on, something felt off. He stopped singing along to the music. His eyes stayed fixed ahead, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. We took turns I didn't recognize, exits that led to back roads, not beaches. I asked where we were headed, and he smiled without showing his teeth. "Somewhere peaceful," he said. I nodded, but my gut tightened. The sun had shifted now, slanting low in the sky. I glanced at the GPS, but it was off. Jeremy never used GPS. He always said real men knew the way. But that wasn't the part that unsettled me. It was the silence. The deep, thoughtful silence that reminded me of funerals. I cracked a joke, trying to ease the tension. "You're not dragging me to one of those yoga retreats, are you? You know I hate stretching." He forced a laugh, but his grip never loosened. Then I saw it. A curved iron gate, slowly opening, as if expecting us. Behind it, a red-bricked building with trimmed hedges and a sign too far to read. My breath hitched as we turned in. It wasn't a hotel. It wasn't a resort. "Jeremy," I began, but my voice cracked. He didn't answer right away. He just kept driving until we parked. I looked out the window. Wheelchairs, uniformed staff, old faces peering from windows. My blood ran cold. "Jeremy," I said again, this time firmer, more like the father I used to be. "What is this?" He sighed and finally looked at me, but only for a second. Then his eyes dropped to the gear shift. "It's called Oak Haven. Just come inside, please." But I didn't move, because I realized what this was. It wasn't a road trip. It wasn't a gift. It was an ending I never saw coming. I sat frozen in the passenger seat, watching a nurse push an elderly man across the walkway. The man looked right at me and smiled faintly, as if welcoming me into his prison. I didn't smile back. My throat was tight. My hands trembling. This couldn't be happening. Not my son. Not Jeremy. He stepped out first and opened my door. "Come on, Dad," he said, with a calmness that made it worse. "Let's just go talk." I stayed seated. "Is this permanent?" Jeremy hesitated, and that hesitation said more than 1,000 answers. "I thought we were going fishing," I whispered. "You told me to bring my hat." He gave a sad smile. "You still can. There's a pond behind the main hall." I couldn't breathe. I looked down at the hat in my lap, the one he gave me on my 60th birthday and had laughed at every year since. I thought it was part of our trip, our tradition. I thought he was giving me a moment to relive old memories. But he wasn't giving me anything. He was taking something away. He was putting me away. I finally stood, more from pride than strength. "You didn't even ask me, Jeremy. You didn't sit me down and have a man's conversation. You tricked me." "Dad, it's not like that," he said quickly, gently grabbing my arm. I've been so worried about you. You've been forgetting things. You burned your kitchen towel last month. You didn't call me for your own birthday." I yanked my arm free. Because I was embarrassed. Because I knew I was slipping a bit. "That's normal. I'm 78, not 98. He looked down, guilt washing over him like a slow wave. "I didn't know how to say it," he said softly. "I thought this would be easier." "Easier for who?" I asked. Just then, a staff member walked toward us, clipboard in hand, name tag shining. "Ruth, admissions." She smiled. "Mr. Dawson? We're ready whenever you are." My son turned to her, then back to me. "Just look around, Dad. Please. If you hate it, we'll talk. Just give it 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That's all it takes to destroy a man." I followed them inside, not because I agreed, but because my legs were moving on their own. Inside was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that pretends to be peace, but is really just loneliness wearing a fresh coat of paint. Photos of smiling seniors lined the halls. A TV played an old sitcom in the lounge. A woman was coloring silently at a table while a man beside her stared at nothing. I watched them like ghosts. Ruth led us to a cozy room with a bed, a small bookshelf, a nightstand. On the bed was a brochure that read, "Where Dignity Meets Comfort." I picked it up, read it, then dropped it on the floor. "Does dignity begin when your son stops seeing you as a man and starts seeing you as an inconvenience?" I asked, my voice now bitter. Jeremy sat in the chair beside me, rubbing his face. "You weren't supposed to see it like this. I thought I was helping." "No, you were escaping," I said sharply. "You didn't want to deal with the reality that your father is aging, that maybe he'll need you like you once needed him." He went silent. The air between us stretched like elastic ready to snap. "I gave you my best years," I said slowly. "I missed work to sit by your hospital bed. I sold my car to pay your tuition. I cooked, cleaned, bathed you. I didn't drop you off at some boarding school and call it love." A nurse peeked in the doorway, but Jeremy waved her off. "I'm not leaving you here, Dad," he said at last. "But I don't know how to keep you safe. I'm scared too." I stared at him, and for a moment, I saw the little boy again. Not the man who brought me here, but the boy who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during long drives home. He wasn't cruel, just overwhelmed. But I wasn't ready to let him off the hook. "I don't need a facility," I said, standing. "I need my son. And if you can't be that anymore, then you leave me no choice but to take back what I gave you." Jeremy blinked. "What does that mean?" I didn't answer. Not yet. But he would soon find out that I still had some surprises of my own. We didn't speak on the ride home, or what I decided was going to be home, because I'd made it clear I wasn't stepping foot inside that place again. I sat there in silence, but my mind wasn't still. My son had dragged me to a nursing facility under the disguise of a vacation, and now he looked nervous, like he was the one unsure of what would happen next. That suited me just fine. The sun had set by the time we reached my driveway. The porch light was still broken. I'd been meaning to fix it, but now I figured I'd leave it just the way it was, dim and quiet. Jeremy put the car in park, but didn't turn off the engine. "Dad," he started, voice cautious. "I just wanted what's best." I finally looked at him. "And what makes you think you know what that is for me?" He stared ahead. "You're alone, and I can't be here all the time. I didn't want something to happen to you when no one was watching." I opened the door slowly, deliberately. "It's not your job to watch me like I'm some fragile vase. It's your job to remember who I am." He didn't follow me inside, but I wasn't done. I stayed up late that night, flipping through old files. Legal documents, property deeds, pension plans, letters from the VA. I still had power. I still had control, and it was time to remind him of that. The next morning, I visited my lawyer. I'd added Jeremy's name to several things when his mother died. Joint access to certain accounts, a medical directive, even limited power of attorney. I removed all of that. Quietly, cleanly. 3 days later, I invited Jeremy back over. He arrived, shoulders hunched like a scolded child. I offered him tea. He declined. I sat across from him with a thin folder in my lap. "I want to show you something," I said. His brow furrowed as I slid the folder across the table. He opened it and stared, confused. "These are changes I've made," I said. "You're no longer on my accounts. You're no longer authorized to make medical decisions for me. Everything you had access to is gone." He blinked rapidly. "Dad, wait. This isn't what I meant." "It's exactly what you meant," I interrupted coldly. "You brought me to a nursing home without telling me. You smiled in my face while driving me to what felt like my grave. I trusted you, Jeremy, and you took that trust and wrapped it in a lie. But I was trying to protect you," he insisted, standing now. "I thought if I just brought you there and let you see it, you'd understand." "No, son," I said, standing too. "You thought if you did it behind my back, I'd surrender to it. But I'm not done living. I'm not done deciding for myself. And I will not hand over my life to a man who sees me as a burden." Jeremy sat back down slowly, eyes welling but jaw clenched. "You cut me out?" he asked. "No," I said. "You did that yourself." The silence lingered. Then he nodded. "I get it," he whispered. "No, you don't," I replied. "But maybe one day you will, when your own son drives you somewhere and you realize you're not on vacation either." He stood, walked to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. "Are we done?" he asked. I looked at him and answered with a heavy heart. "That depends. Are you still pretending you know what's best for me? Or are you ready to actually be my son again?" He didn't reply, just opened the door and left. And for the first time in years, I sat in my quiet home and felt free. Not lonely, not forgotten, free. If you've ever felt betrayed by those closest to you, or found strength in standing up for yourself, this story is for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful true-to-life tales. This is just the beginning.